treatment in one until it's over with. Because we probably mess it up, and I probably would have, and I didn't even realize what I had stepped into. But when we got on the bus to go over, and I don't remember how long the drive was to go over, but we sat on the bus a while before we started, and we had the trip over, and then we sat on the bus a while when we got there, because all the buses had to go through all the security stuff. So, we had a little bit of time, but when we got on, Jamie, Craig, and Heidi, and Jean, and everybody, I was bringing up the rear there, and so there were tons of buses, the shuttle buses, and I saw it looked pretty full by the time I got on, and I only saw 3 seats up front, and each one, because there were just two seats, so each one had a man and an empty seat, a man and an empty seat, man. It's not that I have a problem sitting with a man, but I would have preferred sitting with a woman, so I was going to go on back to the bus, up to the back, to see if there was another seat available in the back. And this gentleman said, well, I have a seat right here. You're welcome to it if you want it. And I wasn't going to say, I don't want it. So I sat down. And he introduced himself. His name didn't mean anything to me at the moment. And I introduced myself. And he said he was from San Antonio, Texas. And I said where I was from. And so it was Alan Parker, if anybody knows who that is. I didn't know who Alan Parker was. And so then he went on to say he had founded the Justice Foundation. And I'm thinking that sounds familiar. And then he said that he was one of the ones instrumental in overturning Roe versus Wade.
Hallelujah.
I'm thinking, but still, I'm not connected. It's like Jan said, that's been a thing with me. Like people get people's autographs and all this. I've always thought all my life, well, they are just human beings. They're not. So I've never had this big problem with, but the thing just went so beautifully. And so he told me that, and he began talking about, well, he'd written a book, No Return on Roe versus Wade, and he gave me something where I could scan and go get a free copy of this book. And so I thanked him. I said, thank you so much for, what you did, and, for doing that. He gave me the scriptures. I won't go into all of that, but he told me how the Father called him to do that. And he was an attorney, obviously, and he called him to do that, and he was kind of like, that was way too big a thing for him, but he just quoted all the scriptures that the Father had used, and then how he confirmed it with him, and then he asked the Father, if I do this, will I win? And he said, he wondered if that was an okay prayer or not, but he had seen where David, when the Father had sent him out to battle, on one of the times David said, will I win? And he said, you will win and go. And so he thought it was okay to ask the Father that, and he asked, will I win? And he told him yes, and gave him another scripture. So when I thanked him, I said, thank you so much. And I said, I was president of Orangewood Citizens for Life for many years way back when, and then gave him just a little brief tip. And I said, I want to thank you personally for what you did. And I gave him my personal story, just a tidbit of it, and he was like shocked. And so it went from that, it went from abortion to Israel to abortion to Israel, back and forth and back and forth. And so then he said, well, what church are you a part of? And I forgot for a moment. It was all Messianic. I didn't forget the church. I forgot we weren't all Messianic. I mean, you see when we go to something, everybody's Messianic, right? So I knew that it weren't, but for a moment I'm just thinking, and so I said, Gates Design Ministries, and he goes, oh, that's an interesting name. Y'all have an actual congregation, you meet every week? I said, yeah, we meet every Shabbat. He goes, Shabbat? And I said, every Saturday, and he goes, really? And it hit me at that moment, wait a second, he's not Messianic. and so I had to start explaining, and I said, yeah, we're Hebraic Roots Ministry. He said, Hebraic Roots? He'd never heard the term. And so I said, yeah, ancient paths, we go back to our ancient paths, we're studying our Hebraic roots. He had no clue what I was talking about. And he kept asking questions. And I said, well, we follow the biblical Sabbath. I didn't say one word about what we don't do. I did not say we don't celebrate Christmas or Easter. I said, and we observe the Father's feast, all outlined in Leviticus 23. And I said, we eat the Levitical diet. And he goes, well, I always thought that what Peter, or Paul, which I think was Peter, said in Galatians when he outlined what the Christians need to do about abstaining from things, for the idols. I said the Noahide laws. And he said, yeah. He said, and all of that kind of stuff. So this was got to be whatever I had time with. And I said, well, let me just say, this has nothing to do with salvation. We're not trying to add anything to salvation. Obviously, nothing can be added to the blood of Yeshua for salvation. I want to establish that immediately. He said, right. And I said, but we've learned that the Torah, his commandments, it's all of them. And they were all in it for us, not just the Jewish people. And he was just soaking this up. And so he said, do you have a card? And I had left my cards home, but I had seen Craig give one to someone. And I said, no, but I can get you one. So I hollered to the back of the bus, pass the card up here. So while the card's coming and I'm giving that to him, I said, is this your first time at the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast? I didn't know he was going to be a speaker, too. I didn't have a clue. He didn't even tell me that, even on the bus when he got up there. I'm thinking, boy. So he said, no, it's not my first time. And he begins to tell me all of this. And so he starts saying he hadn't been to Israel. And I said, well, yeah, we established a place there in 2007. Father told us to put a stake down in the ground there. And he said, what have you been doing since that time? Well, we've been building relationships from the top to the bottom. And so just when all this come to find out, he knew Carolyn Hyde, he knew the Wallers. So we're going back and forth with all of that. And he tells me, he shared that he was with Yehuda Glick at the Knesset on his very first trip to Israel. And it was a whole big group of them that went into the Knesset, and all these Knesset members were out there in the big, I guess like a big rotunda or something out there. Knesset members, rabbis, people from all kinds of countries that were out there. And he said, first trip over there, and then he said, I have no idea why. He said, Yehuda Glick looked at him and said, do you have a song? And he said, he thought, have a song? I don't sing. He's thinking that. He said, he opened his mouth to say, no, I don't have a song. And he said he heard himself say, yes, I do. And he began to sing, hallelujah. Same thing in every language. And so every language there joined in. And he said it was the most incredible experience. It was like the roof was going to come up. All these voices, all these countries singing hallelujah. And when they finished, said that it was just a holy hush. And that Yehuda looked at him and said, that was a prophetic moment. And so that was just, we stopped in the middle. And this is why I said it was so natural. He would start praying, and I would start praying. So we prayed together like 3 times in the midst of this about different things. And so then we go back to the pro-life thing again now, and he's just like, well, so what's your involvement then? And I said, well, I was president for that time, and then, single parent for 7 years, with 5 children, and then married, and, I've just been involved in other things. And my involvement really with pro-life since then has been one-on-one as the Father has put women in my path that I could minister to that most times had no clue of my story, and I had no clue of their story. The Father would just bring something, and it would be, and so he said, would you go to our website? And I won't take the time to go into all of that. But he represented, let me get their names here so I can tell you who they really were. He represented Norma McCorvey, who was the Roe in Roe versus Wade, and he represented Sandra Cano, who was the Doe in Doe versus Bolton. When they tried to overturn, when they found out, and if you go to their website, I went to their website, and the sworn affidavits of these women are on that website, how they were used, they had no clue what was being done, what they were being used for, and these women had to live their lives taking on the guilt of all these babies who'd been killed when they realized what they had been used to do. And this man is the one that represented them when is what got this overturned. But he's collecting declarations from women all over the world to, it's called the Outcry. And he said the Father just told him, bombard with an outcry. Every outcry from a woman who's got a story is a hailstone that's being thrown. And that's another story for another time. But anyway, we've had correspondence since then. And I told him I absolutely would put a declaration on their website because they're still collecting. They collected over 5,000 declarations. And those declarations were the ones they presented all of those when they were getting the Roe versus Wade overturned, and he said those declarations had more to do with that overturn than anything else, because it dispelled the lie of how it doesn't affect women. And I mean, they're representing men too, because, you know, this affects men's lives and whole families' lives and all of this too, but that's something that we really need to look at later on. But so in going back, talking about Tommy Waller, etc., and all, I said, well, did you go to the Israel Summit? He didn't know about that. He knows about the Wallers, has been out to their place, but he didn't. And then he goes, oh, that's that thing that last year got shut down because of the venue, and Dave Ramsey were like, yeah, Dave Ramsey picked it up, and you know, this is what happened. I said, it's in Texas this year. He had no clue, and he said, if you got something, you can send me. So I said, yeah, I reserved my seat. So I pulled up my reservation. He said, email it to me right now so I can make sure I had your email. Emailed it, it popped up, he found it. So he's planning to be there. He wouldn't have known about that. And let me just see if I lost anything else here together. When the bus pulled right before we got off, he just went, we were just talking, he just went into warfare, prayer over that place. And he was praying, sending the demons to everywhere and every ill thing. And I came in behind with releasing the angelic warriors. And I mean, we were just praying. We just got my hand and we're squeezing hands. When he stood up there to speak, I was just like, okay. It was the most natural thing, like we had known each other all our lives. And when letting us know to get up, he said, well, that seat had a divine name on that seat. And I said, yeah. You really did. Thank you for offering me your seat. There's so much more. There's so much more people to talk I want. As I said, we've had contact since. I know the Father, and I told him, I said, I'm in a new season of my life. I've just retired. And I've known that the Father was going to put me back in this pro-life in some way, shape, or form. And so he even had the woman who's head of this Project Outcry has contacted me. And I said, hey, we're in Washington. When I get back, I'll contact you, we'll get the declaration and etc. She just said, I'm so excited to see what the Father's got for this new season of your life. So I don't know, but not only that, I feel like he's opening something further for me to do now after these years. But this man told me, he looked at that card before we left and he said, I'm going to your website because I want to know more about this Hebraic roots. The man, he overturned Roe versus Wade, Father. He's telling us what, and he doesn't know who he is. Is that amazing? So,
that's how it is across the whole country.
there you go.
Thank you, Dixie. Yes, we provide for the store. Absolutely. What we're going to do now is have our giving song.